Tell me if this sounds familiar. Hypocritical, doesn't take any type of accountability, finds any ways to deflect or turn it on you. Angry, it's like you're walking on eggshells around them. Me. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about going no contact from a narcissist, and specifically a narcissist parent. It's an actual clinical thing, so while we're talking about this, I do recommend that you search up what that truly means because it is used pretty loosely. For a lot of my childhood, I grew up with my father and my stepmother, and there was a lot of talks about how even taking us to school was too much for them. Like, it was just such a burden. It was such a hassle to do that for us. As I grew up, I started realizing that the things that I've grew up around and the way that my parents have talked to me and treated me has affected my relationships outside of them. And before even going no contact, I just realized that my nerves were bad around my dad, and he would mention it himself and kind of just be like, oh, that's kind of weird, like your nerves are bad, but never actually tell me how to fix it. It was a moment in my time where I got my first job, and he was willing to take me to the job, and through every time I would get in that car to go to my job, I always had this eerie feeling. He would always complain about something, whether it's my stepmom or just life or doing what he's doing now, which is taking me to work. And I just always felt sick. I just always felt sick before going to work. There was a time where we got in an argument, our first argument where it gave no contact. He stopped talking to me. So he kind of gave me the silent treatment, which is very common with narcissists because they want you to feel like you did something wrong. And I mean, you could have, but I mean, that's just not how you are supposed to handle a situation like that. You're supposed to talk through it, and you can take some space, but the silent treatment is completely different because you're just dismissing them completely. And keep in mind, that's your child. So it's a lot different to just give your child the silent treatment. I was 15, and that was the first time I realized that I can actually stop talking to my father, because he stopped talking to me. And I remember telling him how he made me feel and all this stuff. I sent him like a long paragraph. He really dismissed that too. Even when he would talk to my sisters about it, he would just be like, does she even know what gaslighting means and stuff in that nature? It just goes to show that he wasn't taking any accountability. And that was just at 15. Fast forward, we had a lot of financial problems. And I know this is a lot, but just stick with me. I became very angry. I became very angry as a child because I was fending for myself. I was taking care of myself. And then the one thing that I felt like they had to do, they couldn't do it anymore. And so my life I had to keep switching schools. I had to keep doing this. And I was angry. I was very angry. I started not wanting to speak to him at all. Anytime I would go for him for help or anything, it was kind of just like, well, maybe it's your fault, or you did this and that. Just making you feel worse about yourself. And when you're going to your parent, you think you're going to your father for protection and support, and you get the complete opposite. So yeah, he always still wanted to talk, and I never wanted to talk to him. And there was a time where he would just push and push and push, and he could tell that my anger started to grow. I think the biggest thing with the narcissist is that they want to see you get angry. They want to see you blow up, because then it takes the attention off of them. It makes you look like the crazy one, which is the goal at the end of the day. A lot of the times narcissists are angry with themselves. They're angry with themselves, and they want to extend it to somebody else because they cannot handle it. At a very young age, I felt like a punching bag, and I really was over it. I was having my own personal relationships, and I realized that it doesn't have to be like this. People can be respectful even when they're upset. People can effectively communicate, because I've had to, even though it was very uncomfortable because I was never taught how to. Let's get into some of the dynamics or ways narcissists be narcissists. You can't have any boundaries. For me, as a child, boundaries to my parents are signs of entitlement and disrespect. They kind of value you as something they own. So when you try to set boundaries with them, it's kind of like, who told you can even do that? The thing about that is that either way, you're a human being, just as your parents. You and your parents are both human beings. And when they can't see you as another entity outside of themselves, that is when the double standards come in. They can do something to you, but you cannot do it to them. They can yell at you, but you can't yell at them. Another thing might be emotional neglect. General neglect, I mean, when you think about narcissists are about me, me, me. So even if they love you, like truly, they cannot put your feelings even at the same level as theirs. Theirs is always completely higher because theirs is the most important. They simply don't have enough space to deal with your emotions. They don't have enough space to consider your emotions, and maybe they kind of will, but it will always kind of lean back towards them. Like my parents always used to tell me, like, I let you express yourself because I knew how it felt to not be expressive, but then every moment I would express myself, it was being dealt with as disrespect. So I grew up very scared to speak my mind. So when I would, it's like, it just felt like a slap in the face and like proof that I should not be speaking my mind, which is completely not true. But when you're with a narcissist, it can make you feel like really anything you do is wrong. And this goes back to them wanting to share their pain. So obviously they are dealing with an immense amount of pain and hate for themselves, and they don't know what to do with it, so they try to push it onto other people because it's a lot easier than to deal with what they've done and actually take accountability for how their life is and why it's that way. Some other things that you might notice is they will gaslight you to an extreme. So say you guys actually get to the moment where you're talking about your feelings and you tell them like, yeah, you used to do this and it really shapes the way I live my life and it really scarred me. They will sometimes literally be like, that did not happen. And you know it did, but I mean, that's the type of gaslighting that you have to come accustomed to if you're going to be living with a narcissist, because they're not going to take accountability. And you can have a story with proof and they will still find a way to be like, I think you're being dramatic. I don't think that truly happened. You might be making this up, or you are super, super sensitive. Any way to make it seem like you're crazy. Things like insult you when they're angry. Make sure that your self-worth is low, because if it is, and I don't think this is all consciously, but I think subconsciously they are trying to make sure that your self-worth is low and as low as theirs so that you can be controlled by them. It's easy to wrap you around their finger, because if you can do that, then they can do whatever they want, however they want, and you'll still stick around. Here are some of the feelings that may come up when finally deciding to not be in contact with your narcissistic parent. You might first feel relief, and I know I did. I remember being 15, like, a weight was lifted off my shoulder. Like, I felt like I can breathe, I can be free. And that lasted for a little bit until I started feeling kind of shameful. I'm like, wow, I really don't speak to my father. That's the last person I would not want to speak to. You can feel guilty, like maybe I did take this overboard. Maybe it wasn't as bad as it seemed. And that is exactly what they want, because they want you to come back and accept their actions no matter what. You might feel resentment, which I felt for a long time. And I feel like, sometimes I can still feel it. I mean, I am young, I'm still growing. I literally just got out of high school. Like, there's still so much to learn. But feeling resentful, like, wow, they did all this to me, and like they still live and have fun. They still go out, and for a lot of times they would still take my sisters out and they would have a good time. And that would hurt my feelings. That would make me so resentful. It would be like, you literally destroyed my life. I have to deal with these things now. I have to deal with my low self-esteem. I have to deal with my bad nerves. And it's because of you. When you're a teenager and you're just coming into what everything means, and then you don't have to be a teenager. When you could be young, you could be 30, you can be 50, but when you are just figuring out what your emotions mean and how somebody has impacted your life in such a strong way, you naturally can feel very resentful towards them, because they are not going to take accountability for it. They're going to continue to just keep going. You'll notice that in other relationships, you might see that you're scared to speak up when you're feeling some type of way, or you might attract people that also gaslight you, and you're just like, oh, I just be doing too much, because you're so used to people gaslighting you. You might start seeking external validation because you were never validated by your parent. You were never validated by the person that you loved the most. You might become very hypersensitive. Listen, I'm sensitive, but I realized that at certain times, someone would just give natural criticism and I would take it to the heart, because I was so used to being criticized all the time for just things that just made me, like being sensitive, being a girl, being expressive. Like, those things were constantly being used against me. When I got any type of criticism, it just hit so much deeper because I was so used to being criticized. It can make you codependent on other people, on people that maybe don't treat you as bad as a narcissistic parent has, or the narcissist in your life. Or it can make you hyper independent, which is like, okay, I don't need anybody. I have everything on my own. I've done all this by myself. And that can just stem from them never being there for you. And you've had to learn from a young age to be there for yourself, to the point where you don't want anyone else to help you because you feel like they're going to use it against you, because a narcissist would. You might start internalizing things. So if someone doesn't choose you, someone forgets to bring you a cupcake and remember to bring everyone else a cupcake, it might make you feel like, damn, like, this always happens to me. Like, this person did this because they don't like me. I did something wrong, instead of just they were short one, or they didn't think you were coming that day. It can be simple as that. And I hope this is all making sense with my random scenarios, because they are kind of off the top of my head, but you get what I'm trying to say. It can also bring up feelings of feeling unsafe. You don't feel safe because angry narcissists, which most of them are angry, you can't really trust them. You don't know when they're gonna blow. You don't know how they're gonna blow. And you try to do everything in your power to avoid it, but at the end of the day, they're still gonna blow because they are angry with themselves. It can also show up as looking for unavailable lovers, people that can't meet you emotionally, people that can't validate you, people that don't know how to take accountability, which is just some of the traits as the narcissistic parent. And overall, you're just learning some of the similar ways of their being and either replicating it or seeing other people treat you the same way, because that's all you've known. And in your mind, you start to think that this is the normal. This is just the way life is. This is just the way people are. And in fact, that's not the case. Not everyone is like that. I've told you how you might have felt when you break that contact, but here's the way that a narcissist might feel when you start going no contact. They immediately still can't take accountability. Even if they take accountability in the slightest, they are feeling the shame and guilt that they already have, and eventually will find ways to tell themselves, no, it's not truly your fault. You didn't actually do anything wrong. The biggest thing they have over you is being in your life. So when they feel like you're cutting them out of your life, they will do almost anything to come back into it. They want to see your reaction. They want you to look like the crazy one so that they can take the hurt and the responsibility off of them. Simple as that, especially when they can keep calm and they're looking at you screaming and blowing up and crying and not understanding and being confused. I know a lot of people have experienced this because, again, narcissists, the biggest thing they have is to be present in your life. So a lot of them will do kind of everything in their power to continue to be in your life and to harass you and to make sure that you're going crazy, because they can't stand the feeling like they've lost their power. I really want to talk about grief when it comes to going no contact. Grief is so necessary in this time because it's not exactly supposed to be easy. You're not supposed to be like, oh, let me just go through the 5 stages of grief fast, which is like, you know, denial, anger. I don't remember the 5 stages of grief, but I'll put it up here. I just know at the end it's acceptance, right? Most important people in your life can be your parents, because that's who you grew up with. That's who was supposed to cater to you. That's who you sometimes love the most. And it's so natural to still have hope or want a healthy relationship with your parents, because, I mean, they birthed you. They took care of you, and it's just so normal. But you have to grieve that relationship. You have to grieve what it could have been, what it may never be. And there's always a chance that they will learn and change, but especially when you start getting older and you've been mastering your ways for a very long time, it's just very unlikely for them to change, and that is something that we just have to accept. And it takes time, and you don't have to rush into that. It's okay to be sad that you can't speak to your father or your mother. It's okay to feel like, damn, like I've been let down, because you have, and you've been disappointed. It's okay to cry about it. It's okay to think you're past it, and then 2 years later you realize that you're still not, because that's just human emotions. And it's really important that we give ourselves grace in times like this, because it can just be super emotionally taxing if we don't. Be very emotionally taxing if we act like this isn't a problem, if we act like, oh, everything's normal, you know? And again, we might feel like it is at a moment, we might feel that relief, but emotions come in waves. So one day you might feel like, yes, this was the best decision of my life, and the other day you might be like, damn, I miss my parents. And that's okay. It's also very important to reparent yourself, because the way that parents were parenting you definitely scarred you in different ways. So it's important to treat yourself as if you were a child that needed guidance, and you have to be that guidance. So it's really just reparent yourself the way that you always wanted to be treated. Heal that inner child within by showing your inner child there's different ways. It doesn't have to always be like this. People love to push that you just need to forgive. I know when I first stopped talking to my parents, they were just saying, hey, that's your father. You need to forgive him because that's your father. Before I even got to really understand what I was feeling, which can just be so, again, emotionally taxing, because people are telling you to rush into this stage of forgiveness and you haven't even understand the ways that you are upset and why you're upset. But forgiveness, I really leave that for the end. And you can practice forgiveness. If you don't feel ready, then you don't feel ready. But I'm gonna wait 10 years then to forgive them. Like, no, you can practice forgiveness. You can practice understanding and compassion, and you have to realize that it's not supposed to be immediately. You have to go through these emotions first before you can sit down and think in their perspective of why they might be the way they are. And I know this was really hard for me, and I'm still working on it, because there's still times where I'm just like, wow, how could you? But then I have to understand, like, that you've probably dealt with a lot worse. And this is the outcome of that. And that's not to say like, oh, I just got the better end of the stick, because at the end of the day, they still left you traumatized. It's just a different type of trauma. Having that understanding, and also having the understanding that you, the one that's watching, has the capacity to be like, this is where I went wrong, and this is how I want to improve. This is how I act towards people, because deep down, I miss my father, or deep down, I remember these things that happened to me as a child. These are dark, deep feelings, and a lot of people feel like they don't have the capacity for it. And it's sad, but it's true. And it's not to just be like, oh, let me throw my parent a pity party and continue to talk to them, because at the end of the day, they're not really going to change their ways because you understand them more. Forgiveness really takes time, but it's important for yourself, because if you hold all this resentment within yourself for this person, you are continuously tying yourself to them. You're continuously giving them the power that they've wanted all along. You're not giving yourself the space that you truly need. So it's very, very important that address your emotions, sit in them, let them pass, let them come back, let them pass, and practice forgiveness. It takes time. Don't rush it, because anytime you start fighting with your emotions, you create more turmoil. I think that's all I really have to say about this video. You're not unworthy of love. It's not a matter of, did you deserve this, or why is this happening to me, which is very victim mindset, which I've dealt with a lot. I used to be a victim of my life and not understand a lot, but with time and awareness, you can understand that everything happens for a reason. I had to have narcissistic parents to understand that my boundaries are important, and anyone that cannot come and understand my boundaries and work and compromise through them does not deserve to be in my life. Through that, I've learned to have compassion for others. I've learned to be a safe space for others. So there's always something on the brighter side, and things really do happen for a reason. I would not be able to make this video if I did not experience it firsthand. So I'm just sharing my story while also trying to give you guys tips on going no contact, because it can be very, very hard. And especially our generation, we're realizing things a lot quicker, where we're standing up for ourselves a lot more, and it can be so hard when you're younger and barely understanding what the world is and how it works. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.